Hello, my name is Christy Thomas, and I'm the Director of Senior Design. I appreciate you all being here. I've talked to each and every one of you throughout the spring and summer to get the project portfolio sold, and I appreciate your support. I really, truly do. And I am glad that Jeremy Soong was able to offer to give the overview today. So today, on this breakout, we're only going to talk about the sponsor orientation and training and set you up for success and prepare you for your project journeys that you're about to begin. And I hope that you're all stoked, because we certainly are. Here we go. Well, we hope. Oh, that's me. The purpose of the sponsor orientation is to do an introduction to all the projects and all the sponsors and back to us, the faculty, staff, and the processes that you're going to experience. We want to create a shared learning environment. I have a little bit of an agenda to follow, but if you've known me, I'm pretty informal. I might not follow it, I might follow it. It just goes with the flow. I have some information, I have some overview, I have some process and some schedule. I want you to interact. Feel free to go ahead and interrupt me. It really does help. I tend to be a rambler, and so the more you interrupt me, the better it's going to be, and I know each and every one of you, so don't be shy. Basically, we have projects that we offer, right? We are the Department of Computer Science and Engineering's capstone program. That means that every software engineering student, computer engineering student, and computer science has to take the capstone course with us to graduate. We have to have a capstone to be an accredited university. This is an honor because we can offer 8 different project types to the market and also to nonprofits and also to academic faculty members. So when you look at us and you look at what kind of capstone we offer, now that you know that there are a bazillion capstones across every university, we have basically 8 that we like to focus on so that we can increase our capability and our maturity model. It includes web development, mobile apps, data analytics, Internet of Things, virtual reality, augmented reality, machine learning, gaming, and graphic information systems. I'm happy to say that with the 25 projects and all of your sponsorships that we have, we've hit every one of these project types this year, and so we're super stoked about that. Some of them have more than others, but either which way, all 8 of them are provided by this capstone course into the market due to the talent of our students and the talent of our faculty and staff. We lovingly like to call this our Brady Bunch photo. We have a website that we've been working on all summer long with Melanie and the rest of the friends and family of Senior Design. Brady Bunch, get it? Sorry, I worked on these late, as you can tell, but this is our portfolio, and so what I want to do with you today is to go through that and make sure that we have your logos right. That's important. We also want to make sure that I have your project descriptions right. That is also important. This will be throughout the project journey from here until May. And so if this is not correct, especially your logo, you'll notice it today because I'm trying to show it to you. The buckle, welcome new sponsor buckle. Kevin, where are you? Kevin, great. Kevin's gonna make a social media marketing solution. GC Image, Steve, thank you for joining us. You're going to make a chemometrics application. Hoffman Strategy Group. Jerry, welcome. We think we're going to make a real estate analytics solution. Holland Computing Center. Derek, thanks for being here. This is going to be an interdisciplinary effort with HCC, Water for Food, and many other players for a graphic information system. Madonna Rehabilitation Hospital, happy to have you back. And you are working on your smart emerging technology. Mystic Roads Production, where is Adam? Adam, we're going to build a game together. It's going to be called Bulldorf. It's going to help at-risk children. We are glad to have that, and they are part of the 3 nonprofits that came in from the Lincoln Community Foundation. We appreciate the help and sponsorship from the Santani family as well. Next one is Nebraska Book Company. I'm sorry I didn't update that fast enough. But I am happy to have your project descriptions, even if they come in late. Yes, I am. And that project description that I read, I think yesterday, said that we were going to do a buyback application. We're stoked about that. Welcome to the portfolio. Nebraska Department of Labor, I believe you're here today as well, machine learning. Great, I met you. Thank you. I know you by email. Now I know you by face. This is our labor marketing, machine learning. That's the ML. Nebraska Environmental Trust is on their 4th year with us for grant management. I don't see them here today, but I think they have their logo with me right after 4 years. Nebraska Family Dentistry. Brandon, welcome to the party. He's going to be building a scheduling assistant tool, mobile, I believe, right? Cool. And then the Nebraska Department of Information Technology Services, the IT asset manager. I do not see J.R. Noble, but he will be working on that. We're glad to have them, and of course we want to support the NU ITS department. Boom. Painless Prep. Tom Thompson. Do you like your logo? And I like that too. We're going to build a mobile app together or a progressive web app. It's going to be fantastic. Regular fill brands. Nope. Well, indeed, they're going to build an app with us. It's going to be a social community building app. It is a brand new idea. Very fun. The Bay, facility management tracking. Anyone here from the Bay? Oh, good. Welcome the Bay. Yeah. Skate park, coffee, youth. Yeah. Good. Okay. Yes, we're going to do that. RFIDs. And then the UNL Center of Children, Family, and Law. Do you like your logo? It's a training app. You see a problem with it? I'm going to fix it with you afterwards. Don't forget to tell me. Okay. See how easy that is to interact? I'm pretty easy. The CSE Burke project, this is a continuation for VR for structures. Parabon's going to come to us with Redox, Ramamurthy with the hydroclimate, Sharif with your eye tracking, Varan with wireless testbed, Wolf is a new project for smart home system. The Department of Agronomy and Horticulture is going to do an invasive species application. We're going to say it like that. College of Public Health is here for Healthy Eating app. Monroe Myers Institute, Habit VR, James, good. You liking your logo? I like that. And last and not but least is the USDA, who's federal, not state, but with the Nebraska wetland delineation. Sound good? Sound good. Thanks for doing that with me. So now I want to go into the overview and tell you a little bit about the processes and a little bit of my background. Indeed, this is Agile Defined. I'm much older than Agile, let's admit that. And the first time I ever trained a group of systems analysts was to teach them how to do rational unified process, which is the predecessor to Agile. I met Grady Bruch, who was the inventor of rational unified process and an IBM fellow back in my industry days. And so indeed, Agile is just a little bit different than that. It's just a shorter iteration, right? So when you heard Jeremy talking about the overview and talking about those release cycles, those of you that are return sponsors, you know your release cycles for sure, and you know how important they are. Those of you that are new, you're gonna see it for that first time, and so are some of your students. So you wanna be cognizant of that, a little compassionate about that, and after you get to the second one, it's gonna get better, right? It's a way of thinking, but it's not something that I'm gonna push. Senior design uses agile practices because we need to move this whole ship kind of in a unified fashion. Why wouldn't we have them follow the same process? But your teams are self-managed and they can do as they choose. So do know that we're flexible. Here are some of the things that I encourage your teams to do and that they'll be learning in their workshops and in their class with us. They'll be learning it from their faculty that you met. They'll be learning it from their project managers that have industry experience as well. Stand-up meetings, does anybody do this in your real life? Stand-up meetings? Good, very good. Your team will hopefully be doing this in their team times, right? Remember all those rooms and buildings we talked about that are gonna be available? Because we solved that problem, Steve? Well, in that Brace Lab, let's say they meet from 6 to 10 on Wednesday nights. We're hoping that that squad lead's gonna start out with a stand-up and have his or her whole team stand up and talk about what they accomplished last time they met, what they're gonna accomplish this time they meet, and then if they have any impediments. They don't solve it in the stand-up, but they grab those impediments, put it in their back pocket so that they can remove those risks, right? Well, stand-up is just one of a bazillion things in Agile that we teach. And it's to advocate for the success of your project, to advocate for the success of the students. So we rely on it. We like it. Agile's a friend of ours. Hello, Chris Bone. Dr. Chris Bone. Flexibility and training. Back to that. Indeed, we cannot force Agile. We do teach practices and what and why and how, but it is for continuous improvement and support. How many of you had an initiative of a project or a process that you wanted your team to follow? And basically, you wanted them to buy into it and find it to be useful, and then they would actually follow it. I'm sure all of us have done that in our lives. That's what you'll do here. If that stand-up becomes desensitized and not useful, let it drop off. But if the retrospective becomes, desensitized and not useful, trust me, we will all be watching that. Crucial practices. Vision, backlog, releases, iteration, definition of done, retrospectives, refactoring. You saw this slide earlier. You'll see it multiple times. Are there any questions on this slide, right? Yeah, well, good. Oh, good. Yeah. Good, that's a good question. I'll repeat it for the video we're making, and I appreciate you letting me make this video with all you here. It's a little awkward, but either which way, you were asking on the acceptance side, between those different roles, how does it work out and how do you play it out? Agile has that concept of pigs and chickens, right? Which ones have the most vested interest in breakfast? Those chickens are giving up those eggs, but the pig, they're giving up a lot if they're bacon, right? So when you look at all the roles and all the people that are involved in this entire life cycle, there are two really, really important pigs in my mind, and that really is the product owner. And in the Buckles case, you will be the product owner, Kevin. And then on the squad side, the other pig that's real important is that squad lead, right? He or she is going to be the one liaison and conduit to you to get your requirements and get your acceptance criteria per user story on that backlog. The backlog will be in ZenHub. You'll have a definition of done, but you indeed will be in control of that acceptance criteria, right? So let's say on the Buckle, are you doing a social media marketing app, right? Okay. Let's say one of your features is that you want to be able to, on that app, bring up a template of different things that you would announce, and one of them would be a grand opening for a new store, right? Your acceptance criteria might be real specific, saying, using Android, written in Xamarin, I need to be able to log in and be able to pull up a template that has the grand opening option available. If that's met, that acceptance criteria, then I, Kevin, as the product owner, am good to go on that test case. Check. Is that cool?
My question is more specifically, you want us to passively manage that by providing acceptance criteria and while the manager on the team is actually formally accepting, or do you want us to participate in accepting and interact?
Oh, that's a good question. And the question was if it's going to be passive or interactive way. Indeed, I would like it to be interactive way. If they can drum up a sandbox with, let's say, on the mobile side, it'd be like Test Flight or any of the test tools for mobile platforms, then you actually can get in there and test it. Get into GitHub and put it down as a pass or fail. That's fine too. That would actually make it really successful, and I'd love to see you do that. Yep. Good question. Any other questions? All right, project initiation. If you're thinking back to that slide, right, if I can get back to it, that project initiation is living, over to that one side. And in there, you're going to become acquainted with the sponsor and the project, determine the process for execution, and get into those activities. Do some team bonding. Figure out these students. They're more interesting than you think. They've done some cool things. Talk to them like real people. They're going to appreciate that. Have they traveled? Do they eat food? They do. Do they go to movies? Yes, just like us. Do that bonding. It really does help the team and get a common understanding of your project and your goals and your vision. In that project initiation, I don't expect a demo. Maybe you'll get one if it's a continuation project, but most of the time I want you to make sure that your vision is conveyed. There's also an important factor of the architectural design and overview. There are a lot of teams that need to do this in the initiation phase if they're not working on a continuation project. You will want to force them through that. We will be doing that too. So that first release and project initiation is really what you're going to see in that September, October timeframe. Then you head into the execution, right? And that's when it starts to rinse and repeat and run through that cycle, run through that cycle. And basically you're getting value. You've got weekly sponsor meetings that you're attending. They're doing some business modeling, some risk management, tracking assumptions, defect tracking, deployment planning, technology training, evaluation, status reporting. I don't mean to read it off to you, but there are a bazillion other things that they're doing in that execution. There are things that you already do in your businesses or in your labs, but they are also doing it too, and they may be doing it for the first time. So they will get better at it, and they will get better at it with you and with your help and your mentoring and compassion and coaching. We got another drawing here. Then you head into those releases. I won't go over it too much because we kind of went over it earlier in the overview, but you will have 6 of them. And after each of them, you're going to get an email from a generic email account that I hope your email will not put in the spam folder, will not grab and put it in the junk folder, or that you won't forget about it. When you do, I will gently call you. I always gently call you and remind you of different things. It's not because I'm trying to be a pain. It is a project manager background in me for sure, but they are gentle reminders. If your project description isn't here soon, I'll be reminding you gently. If you don't fill out this evaluation on your release, Kyle and I, you can imagine him, you saw him earlier, we'll be sitting in my office on my actual landline phone that has a dial tone. It's the strangest thing. It's really old. Project closing. Project closing is really important, and we're much better at it than we ever used to be. We do offer a full-on GitHub transfer if you would like. We do try to get those teams that we know that are expected to go into production into the theme of project closing and transition and IP transfer early on, like release 4, like as soon as they get back from that holiday. Boom. Did you know you're going live? How are you going to go live? Right? Well, they're doing that with you. It goes back to the acceptance testing, which is a little like you were talking about, Kevin, and also that transition system, the retrospective, and demonstrate those results. I can't stress the importance of this as much as I can, right? I think Tom also, right? Aren't you hiring Agape Red to help you with your transition? Hopefully. That is good. We welcome Tom. He hopes that it's going to go to production and go into a hosted environment that Agape Red is going to handle for their out. That is also an option. That happens every once in a while too. If you do not have your own internal IT resources, I encourage you to do that. You don't have to, of course. If you are within the Nebraska system, I will find hosting for you. I will find hosting for you through all my friends at the NU ITS system. But I need to know about it early. Don't worry, there'll be a gentle reminder. This is also the same overview. I think it's just a different color. Are there different questions about these roles? Does anybody know who's not playing what role? I think you all raised your hand before, but how many of you are sponsors? Well, that's real good. I don't see anybody that is not a sponsor not raise their hand. That makes me real happy. Inside that sponsor box, though, I want you to know that there are a bazillion stakeholders in some cases. In some cases, there's just one. But the key primary contact is that product owner. I do, if you have not, delineate who that is so that I can get your release evaluations. It goes back to that email. It goes back to grading. It's real pertinent to me. It also is something that we train our squad leads. See how over here on this squad box, that squad lead, directly to that person. Uber important. But on the sponsor side, if you have an executive sponsor, which is who I sign the contracts with, you want to bring them to the release meeting. There's really nothing more difficult for a team if you don't bring everybody to consensus, right? If I have an executive sponsor like the chair of the department or something, and I don't bring him or her in until release 6, that might not work out so well for me. It might not work out so well for our students. It might not work out well for you. So this is an opportunity to bring those executive sponsors in, right? And have them see that release meeting with you. You can work with those teams on a weekly basis, But bring your executive sponsors with you on the release checkpoints so that if there is some consensus opportunities, don't we call it that maybe, or challenges of disagreement without being disagreeable, you can do that in the release meeting. Plus, our students get to learn a lot from it, and it also increases their maturity. You're preparing them for their postgraduate careers. Why wouldn't you put them through that? They need to see it as well because we always do come into consensus eventually, right? Anything else on that slide? Can't think of anything. All right, executive sponsor role. I'm not going to read all these to you, but there's definitely a role, and they hold that squad accountable. They're also a champion for the project. They get rid of noise. They're always going to be a champion for that project. The coach's responsibility, they're in the other room getting their training, and we definitely appreciate their volunteer-ness to help these teams. But they maintain a dedication, technical consulting, mentoring. This is a picture from our showcase, and right here is Sante. He was a coach for the Encadia Synexus team last year. He also happens to work at Open Doors, and before that, I think he worked at Don't Panic Labs. He is one of probably a volunteer of about 40 to 50 coaches that we can draw upon because of the support for senior design and the support from Nebraska to make our students the best. Delivery team. So what are the students responsible for? Well, they're responsible for quite a bit, right? They need to develop those iteration goals with you, the release goals with you. They also need to have authority, though, and they need to be self-managed. That is a part of Agile, and we want to have that with the teams as well. They develop the test cases. They actually do some development and some coding. They help those sponsors write and develop test case if you like, and they collaborate with that product owner to optimize value. They do many, many other things. I won't read it all to you, but we do train them these things in class. And I know a lot of you sent your children to school today for the first day of the semester, right? So you probably feel like you're in class too. Speaking of class, have you ever seen a syllabus? How many of you? Raise your hand. Have you seen a syllabus? That is true. Once upon a time, we were all in school and we all saw a syllabus. The reason I bring it up is because in addition to your project and in addition to your vision, which I am an advocate for, obviously I talk to you all spring and summer, I care about your projects a lot. I also have to care about the students and their coursework, right? So sometimes the things that you want them to do for the release may be in conflict with what I need them to do for the course. For example, there are about 9 different behaviors that we grade every student on, right? Because we're teaching engineering principles and practices. They may not be practices or principles that you care about in your shops, and I'm okay with that, totally fine with it. But we still have to do it for class. So if you see them negotiating the release planning with you and saying, well, I can't quite work on that yet, Nebraska book, because I got to do this unit testing behavior. And you say, oh, well, you don't need to do unit testing. You could just go ahead and skip that. We don't do that here at Nebraska book. Do you do unit testing? Oh, I see. So while you may not love all these practices and principles or find them useful in your shop, please act like they are for our students because we're trying to teach them these principles and practices. And don't be surprised if they take something off the backlog because they need to do it. For example, on web development, telemetry. Who loves telemetry? No one's loving it. Veron, you're loving it. Good. They're going to do telemetry on your project. They will actually do it on all of them. So the squad lead role. This lucky person nominates themselves to be a squad lead. After your project rollouts, indeed, we ask all the students to stack rank all your projects. And when they do that, we ask them also to denote if they would like to stand up to a leadership role. We don't try to force that upon them. Luckily, we have enough that volunteer for such dangerous things. But we do ask them to get their stack rankings in so we can hopefully give them their top 3 choices. We find that most students do best if they pick a project that they care about, right? So squad lead in here is the liaison to you as the sponsor team. They also enable all that communication. They report back to the squad's project status updates. They're delving out tasks. They're almost like a little, well, I shouldn't say little, but younger project manager. Project manager in training, right? Product owner, this is you. I need you to be value driven. I need you to be the vision keeper, the daily decision maker. Be on Slack. If you can't be here in person for your sponsor meeting, turn on that Slack channel. I'm telling you, you'll see all the chatter, you'll be able to answer questions, and you'll keep your team moving. The more you put it in, the more you're going to get out of your project. Need them also to be a heat shield and the one ultimately responsible for the project and answer those questions. If you can imagine, the team times are 8 to 10 hours a week, right? It's not like you and I working Monday through Friday. They may work Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Well, if the question isn't answered on Monday, they're not going to meet again until Wednesday. Then they might not design that till Friday, and then you might not see it till next Monday. If you had a delay in answering their question, can you imagine the cascading effect of that, because they're not meeting 40 hours a week like we are? There are some do's and don'ts in there. Please don't bully my squads, and do allow them to change things. But don't incorporate scope creep. I will contact you if there's an escalation point. I feel free to do that at any point just to help you out. And I also refer back to this orientation when that happens. Focus on the short-term deliveries only. Don't do that necessarily, but I do want you to be able to decompose your features, your epics, your stories. When I was thinking about trying to make this interactive today, which, by the way, I'm not faculty, I'm staff, so it's very rare that I speak or teach, I thought about Subway. And like, if you had to define to somebody that wasn't from here and had never been to a Subway before, and you only could do it in 3 steps, right? 3 steps only to explain how to order your food at Subway. What might you tell that person to do? Jeff, you're faculty. What might you do? It doesn't have to be 3, but just very few steps. Yeah. Good, that's 1. You only got 2 steps left. Good job. Okay, 3. Perfect. Well, that could be your project description that you've all provided to me. That's the 3 steps of your project description, right? The Subway version. Well, when you get in with that team and you're hanging out and you're thinking about yourself as the product owner, you could really get into the details of Subway. It's, you know, you get a Subway PhD. You can find out, you could have white bread, you could have wheat bread, you could have cheese bread. I mean, how many breads have they got over there, Jeff? Right, right. There's soup involved. There's a beverage involved. I mean, cookies. See, now we're up to like 10 steps. So think about that. When you're working as a product owner, you may say, "Oh, boom! I need a buyback application. I need a sensor for a heart monitor." Sensor for a heart monitor. That's funny. That's not that simple, I imagine. So think about decomposing things and think about explaining things. And then think about how you learn new things. When you learn new things, you reiterate it back. Go ahead and ask that student to reiterate it back to see if they did indeed catch what you were saying, right? And then check and see if they wrote it down. No paper in the room, no machine on, just a whole verbal conversation about this. And now all I can remember is that there's something about bread, and I guess there's a protein of some sort. Have them write it down, or you write it down. Somebody's got to write it down. All right. Effective product owner. Be responsible. Oh, I wish Marie was here today. She's from Nebraska Environmental Trust, and this is her crew from last year at the showcase. And I stole this picture from LinkedIn. She's happy about her team, and so there she is. She's a great product owner. She's very responsible for their outcome. She does have authority to make decisions, which is important. She's collaborative, very knowledgeable about the domain of grant management for the Nebraska state. High-level sponsor expectations. Indeed, the sponsor team needs to be available and collaborating with the senior design squad. Also, project stakeholder participation with the project. At minimum, every release. Bring all your friends together. Prioritize that work. It is fun to watch students learn how to prioritize and negotiate. It is important that they know how to do that to be successful in life. They will do that with you. It may be that they're not great at it at first, and you may want to take advantage of them and ask them for 20 things. I encourage you to negotiate with them and find out when they can say no. Go ahead and push them long enough to get them to say no, because by them saying no, they're going to learn how to underpromise and overdeliver, and not overpromise and underdeliver, which all of you do in your real lives, I'm sure, right? So it makes you better in your work or in your research. You want them to be the same way. Indeed, adaptive sponsor, yeah, why not? And then validate that solution on a regular basis, by all means. Student perspective. Does anybody remember their capstone? Can anybody, oh good. James, are you gonna help me out? Okay. Did you have a capstone in your degree? What's your degree in? Oh, I've heard of that, that's cool. What capstone did you do?
It was a web-enabled 3D printer.
Oh, excellent. Did you have a sponsor? No. Okay. Did you just make up these requirements, get to do whatever you want? No. Okay. Maybe a faculty member played the sponsor. Yeah. Okay. Well, that is good. Now, when you were taking that capstone course, thinking of the student perspective, this is Colton and Irene from last year's NDOT team, did you have other classes that you took at the same time? Okay. Maybe 3 or 4? Yeah. See, these are easy questions. And then did you have a job as well in addition? Okay. So senior design maybe not taking over 80% of your life? Okay, good. So that's my analogy of the student's perspective. So when you're hanging out with your crews and you're working with your students, yes, it is cool, yes, it is fun, and it may be 80% of your job. That is great that you can dedicate that much time to it. Our students cannot and do not, so you want to have some compassion for that. But they are stoked about it because it's finally a real project. They finally get to work with a sponsor. They finally get to show you all these cool things that they learned in their curriculum, and they're so happy to do it. It's almost like when you go to the pool and you watch your child jump off the diving board. They're probably not going to die. They want you to just see them jump off the diving board, right? Same thing here. They get to meet new people. Sometimes they go out and have dinner together. Sometimes they end up forming relationships that they're going to keep for the rest of their lives, hopefully. That's a cool thing about working on projects, and that's why I always love project management. Projects come and go, solutions come and go, but the friends that I've made, that I've worked with, they stay. All right. Yes. I won't read it all to you. They may not know everybody in their squad to begin with either. Now that's entertaining and interesting. So when you get to your kickoff meeting and you think you're the only one that doesn't know the students, they may not know each other either. So you got to give them a moment to figure each other out. It's like going to Thanksgiving with all your other cousins. You're like, who are you? And what's your name? And okay, same thing here. Now by that first release though, I want you to know everybody, and we tell them to know everybody too. And so they're looking at that team introduction email, the one that Jeremy said is coming out soon from your project managers. And who are your project managers? Can you name one of the 3? They all live back there. One of them starts with a B, ends with 2 L's. Anyone? So Bill, Melanie, and Jeremy, they're going to be your project managers. They're going to send you that introduction. The tips for the students, of course, we tell them all about this. The steep learning curve. A lot of them, it will be a steep learning curve. Some of them are going to have to learn a new language right away when they get your project. But the good thing is they're trained at the university in computer science, engineering, and software engineering, so that they learn to learn. They can pick up a new language that is easy, and they want to because that makes them successful in their careers. Let's say you have a gaming application, Boldorf, right? And let's say you need to pick up Unity. Boom, don't be afraid. But do expect a large learning curve and give them some time to get that down. They're going to do what you would normally do and Google it up, get some tutorials. We're also going to help them in the background with our coaches and our mentors, and if we see them fall more than twice, we will be picking them up, right? We need them to learn. We can't give them the answer, but I generally only let them fail about 2 times. Okay? Students' tips for the sponsors. Oh, this is fun. So the students, they tell us at the end of the year what they want us to tell the future sponsors, right? Definition of done. Make sure it's solid and well communicated. Definition of done is important because it sets a standard for quality and process. Unified direction. Ensure the entire sponsor team is on the same page and drives the squad towards that goal. Acceptance. Have end users test that system and developers perform code reviews. I'm pausing on that one because it's important if you can possibly. If not, let your project manager know. We can maybe augment that a bit. But the earlier you can do customer discovery and have end users test your system, the better that product's going to be. Also, performing those code reviews, uber important. You don't have to do a ton of them, but it is good to do them along the way and not in release 6. As technical as you would like. You can. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. I do. Well, let me repeat that question because I'm trying to be good about the, the recording and all. So Kevin's question from the buckle is on those code reviews. How in depth do you get? From what level of review are you looking at it analytically? And what's the best way to make that student successful, right, with that code? I think the best way I could answer it, and I know that I'm going to lean on Brady to answer it better for me, because he does kindly do code reviews, which is so nice. That your teams really, they evolve and they mature and they get a capability to them. In the beginning, the first time they do that code review, it won't be to the point of a non-functional requirement for performance per se. And it could be at that lower level of the syntax. So if you think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And you got that basic psychological at the bottom for safety, and then you go all the way up to self-actualization. I kind of think of the code reviews in the same way. You know what I mean? So in the beginning, maybe if I'm on a team and I'm developing code for the buckle, when I give you my code to review that first time around, you shouldn't take it to that highest level of Maslow's. And you should bring it down to the basics of, does it function? May it be beautiful? Maybe not. Maybe after the second release, when you review that code, you could get into the performance of that code and say, hey, those 80 lines could be 40, and this is how you could do that. This is the way that I think about it, indeed. What do you think, Brady? There you go. See, Brady's tough on him. That's good, Brady. All right. Well, good. On that technical contact, the students, when they're trying to give you tips, is try to have them available during team times and present at the meetings. Again, they're going to pin these team times in their Slack channel. I encourage you to use Slack. It's a community. It's very, intuitive eventually. And they're going to pin things on the right-hand side. Some of those things include their schedule. When you get into release 1, you'll want to determine that schedule with them and find out when their team times will be. And that's really easy because then you can follow this tip of technical contact and just being available during their team time. That doesn't mean, Dr. Pfeiffer, that you'd have to be hanging out with your team from 8 to 10 every Wednesday, not at all. But do be cognizant that they will be doing that, and they may have a question that pops up. The turnaround, again, we kind of harp on that, so I'll try not to. The great initiation, set squads up for success. Great initiation. That's where you're heading. Now, I have a couple tips for the new and return sponsors, because I do think of you all lovingly, and I thought about it yesterday in that a new sponsor with a new project, from my experience and working in all of these roles, let's just admit that, is that in your first release, you should be focusing your team on understanding your vision, yes, just like any other team, but also the development of the architectural design that will support that vision. If you have, say, for example, some nuances in your project description that are ambiguous at best on the architecture and the design, are you going to go native mobile? Are you going to go progressive web app? Are you going to go Unity? Are you going to, any of that stuff? I encourage you in that first release to make a decision on that architectural design so that it can get solid, at least slushy. It doesn't have to be frozen, but slushy, so that this team can move along. I have over 26 teams under my belt that I've managed, and I tell you, the ones that didn't decide on that architectural design early on or hemmed and hawed on it may not have been as successful as they could have been. That's my tip. On the second one, the return sponsors with continuation projects. I didn't reiterate this last year. I wish I would have. I can do it this year. You need to focus your team's understanding of your vision, but also on the previous team's solution, including the architectural design to support that vision. Give them some time. It's just like if you hired a new employee, right? You need to onboard them and train them. Give them some time to read all the previous documentation that you made in senior design, right? And then find out if they can reiterate that back to you to make sure that they understood it and that they're not assuming something and then moving forward with that assumption. 85% of our disagreements are on the assumptions that we didn't bother to air. Please air them. That's always helpful. And you don't totally know, because it takes a while as a new computer science or software engineering student to pick up a previous person's work, right? And you'll love doing that, of course, because you've got something that's maybe 40 or 50% baked and you can move a lot further on along. But you do want to focus it in that release 1 so that release 3, there's no question on what you did last year. It just wouldn't even be a question because you already got through it in release 1. All right, new this year and action items. Oh, good, I'm going to finish early. Now, new this year are the second year students. Indeed, Jeremy talked about this a little bit, and we do have 15 lucky ones. Next year we'll have 45, and the number just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But the reason why is because the software engineering students need to take senior design twice. And we are super glad to have that opportunity because it will improve our capability maturity model as well, right? So these lucky second year students, they will have an opportunity to play 4 different roles. I won't get into the details of them, but one of them is called the super squad lead. And we gotta laugh about that, right? It doesn't come with a cape or anything, but maybe it will. Maybe it'll need to. They also could facilitate those workshops. That'll be great. Our class is gonna be really workshop driven, where they work on your project in class. And a whole bunch of other roles, but we can't wait to see what they would do. The other thing new this year is that there is a 2-team model. The enrollment has grown. It's grown tremendously, and we are glad for that. The demand for computer science and engineering and software engineering is growing, not just in Nebraska, everywhere, and we want to feed that demand, and we want to churn out more talented students. When we do that, it causes that enrollment to grow, and we're going to work towards that. To do that, I need to have a 2-team model. So I have 4 teams selected this year that will be doing this 2-team model, and Dr. Bone and Dr. Garvin, Brady and Chris, will be manning those teams and testing this model with us. So if you're the lucky winner of one of those 4 2-team models, they will be your tribe leads on top of this that are gathering data so that we can take that model, manipulate it, and churn it for the next year. And no matter how many students enroll, we'll be able to scale and grow. That is one of my charges as the director, is to be able to scale this whole puppy so that it can hold 350 students. And that would be 45 to 90 sponsors, coaches, and staff. Well, probably not staff, but we love our team that we have on our staff. On the action items, if you have not already, and thank you to those that have, complete your project description. I know who you are, I'm coming to get you. Sign your project agreement. I know who you are, Matt Wagenheim is coming to get you. Send a high-res logo. Please do. If not, we're going to put one in there anyhow. Start working with your squad lead once you receive your team intro email on September 10th from your project manager, Melanie, Bill, and Jeremy. Here's a sample of the team introduction email. Please don't memorize those email addresses. I should have whited that out. But basically, as you can see, it has every piece of content and data that you're going to need to be successful. Inside there, it has all the squad inside the table thing, and their email addresses. How many students do you think use email still? Keep that in mind. They use Slack more often and their phones more often than they do their emails. So if you send out an email and you're surprised that they haven't replied, have you considered their choice of communication and that it is no longer email? Either which way, they have to answer their email for senior design. It's just the delay on it. Don't be surprised. Slack is the best way to talk to them. Also, you can see in there, there's an introduction to your coach. It's a little bit further down on the email. I will be deconflicting any coach conflicts with the sponsor directly. It's out of courtesy that I do that. If I made a mistake and put a coach from a competitor onto your team, yes, please tell me. If you're from Apple and I put a Microsoft coach on your team, I need to know. I probably didn't, but either way, I offer it to you. Also, the tribe lead is mentioned. See on this one, this is for wet code. That's Dr. Garvin. Then the project manager is listed. On this one, it happened to be Jeremy. And then we tell you how much we're looking forward to your project. It's going to be a good party. Now, on your handouts, you have this reminder of key dates. I rarely print things. I love the trees, as you can imagine. But if it's important, I'm printing it. As you can see, it's printed. There's the rollouts on the 3rd, the rollouts on the 5th, the email on the 10th, the kickoff between the 11th and the 20th, the release dates, plus or minus a week, the showcase on May 1st. That's always fun. Then the end of project, May 8th. It's for real. It really does end. That's why you want to do a transition with Kyle and I. All right. Sorry for the lineup, but can you see where you're at? We also have another handout that's in a fun chalk drawing. Thank you, Bill. That'll let you know where you need to be. I feel like it could be a quiz. I can tell everybody's nervous. This is good. I like this. Nebraska book, when are you presenting? Are you? Oh, good. I like that. Let's go to that slide. Oh, good. Room 4 at 2:40 and room 2 at 2:50. Cool. Anybody else want to play? HCC, do you know when you're playing? Indeed. See, it's good. You're going to pass all these quizzes. Stay with me. Again, you can see why people don't let me talk. Another thing I want to point out, I need to try to go back, is on September 3rd, I did not get the optimal room reservation. I need you to go with the flow on this one. We're going to have partitions. They're going to break up this room. They've never done the room in this configuration before, but I think it's going to be fun, and I like a challenge. So it's in the ballroom this year, and there'll be 4 different areas. Room is kind of a big word for that. It's a 8-foot-tall partition, and I will be videotaping it as well, if you can imagine that challenge, and trying to get your audio in there as well. Now, on the second day, boom, you will actually have rooms because you'll be in the Centennial area, and they have doors, and it's similar to the area that we had for the showcase last year. That audio visual will be a little bit easier, but either way, it's going to go like clockwork. You're going to have so many people helping you through this. The rollouts will be recorded. If you do not approve of this image release, please tell me now. It's very helpful. The reason we record them is so we can put them into Canvas. Canvas is our learning management system, and as you can imagine, 170 students cannot possibly watch each and every one of these project pitches. But if we upload it into Canvas, they can see a couple of them in person, they can watch a couple of them on Canvas over the weekend, and then they can fill out that student preference for us before we get back into class on that Tuesday that follows. But I also use it for marketing purposes, so I appreciate that. Let me know. Now, if you would like to prepare for your project rollout or see a sample of one from last year, it is on our website. Thank you, Melanie. And I want to thank you for sponsoring. You're going to have great project journeys. What questions do you have? Anything?